Thank you very much for inviting me today. The topic, I think Jesus is. Well, I believe he's rather like an optical illusion. Different people look at it and see different things. Now, it was this indistinct characteristic of Jesus that enabled his followers, the Nazarenes, to perpetuate the belief in him, and in particular, because the Nazarenes fade out of sight, along comes Paul, and he took it up from there. And Paul in particular, I believe, perpetuated one of the greatest cons of all time. Now, first let me say, I do believe that Jesus did exist, or the person that Christians call Jesus. However, I believe that the New Testament account of Jesus is essentially a collection of fairy tales. So what are the real facts concerning Jesus? Well, firstly, he wasn't called Jesus. His name was Yeshua. Yeshua, the son of Jehoshaphat, or Yeshua the Nazarene. His life, well, we don't know when he was born and when he died. If we follow the Gospels, he could have been born between 6 and 4 AD, but that's not certain. When he died, we don't know, except it must have been between 26 and 36 AD, because it was during the time of Pontius Pilate. His parents. Now, we can be pretty certain his father was Joseph. However, we cannot really be certain that his mother was called Mary. He was born in Nazareth, not in Bethlehem. He grew up and spent most of his life in Nazareth. He only left there in the latter stages when he began his life's mission to preach the coming of the kingdom. This is why he was called Jesus of Nazareth, and his followers the Nazarenes. Like many Jews of his time, he was expecting the kingdom of God to arrive. This was the messianic kingdom of God. It appears he believed that he had been chosen to go and preach the kingdom to his fellow Jews. It does seem likely that if he had, he would have begun his mission about the age of 30 years, because the Jewish custom of the time was that a man could not begin his life's mission until he had reached the age of 30, which was considered to be the time when a male entered a man's estate. He may have believed he was the Messiah, but let me stress, the Jewish Messiah, not the Christian Messiah. The message that he preached concerning the kingdom was not new. If we read the accounts of Josephus, there were many men called Jesus or Yeshua who wandered the countryside preaching the coming of the kingdom. Most of these were considered by the authorities to be deluded lunatics, and very few attracted any following. For that reason, most of them were ignored. However, there were several that did attract large followings, and when that occurred, the authorities would take action. It appears that Jesus did gain a reasonable number of followers, and that he had a number of close associates, 12 according to the Bible, although they can't get the names right who the 12 were. Jesus was not a Christian. If you'd mentioned that to him, he wouldn't have understood. He was a Jew. His followers were Jews. The message he taught was of Judaism. He did not preach Christianity or anything vaguely resembling it, because there was no such thing in existence while he was alive. He had no connection whatsoever with the pagan Christos or Christos. The New Testament claims concerning the Christ figure are a complete fabrication. They are based on Gnostic concepts, and they were formulated primarily by Paul. It appears that Jesus was considered enough of a threat by the authorities to be arrested for sedition. He was brought before Pilate, and he was crucified, which was the punishment for sedition. If he had been guilty of blasphemy, he would have been stoned. His body was removed and dumped in Gehenna. There was no tomb, no resurrection. They were later inventions. Now, that normally would have been the end of the story, except some of his followers claim to have seen him alive. And we only have to think of Elvis. Following that, Paul took over and formulated the new religion. Thank you very much.